After suffering a week 1 loss to Georgia, Dabo Swinney has found his name back in the headlines. According to Las Vegas, he has the 12th highest odds to be the next head coach fired in college football. Despite all this, the idea of Clemson moving off of Dabo is the most perplexing and bewildering decision that could possibly be made. When you look at all the blue bloods in college football right now, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, they were labeled this because they had many, many years of success since the start of college football in the 1900s. When you look at Clemson, they are held in a high regard and they are considered to be a blue blood amongst those programs, but they weren't labeled one until the late 2010s, and that's because of Dabo Swinney. Unlike those previous programs, Clemson was never held in a high regard until Dabo took over as the head coach. They won a national championship in 1981, but they weren't ever regarded amongst the Alabamas of the world. Now they are. It's because of everything that Dabo has done to transform this program. The success on his resume speaks for itself. Dabo's record for Clemson is 170-44. He's the most winningest coach of all time for the Clemson Tigers. He's been to 6 college football playoffs. He's been to 4 national championships, winning 2 of them. He's transcended the program. He constantly develops first-round draft picks, and he's transformed the perception of Clemson University in a positive manner. The expectation now is win a championship, and that's what you want when you're a coach at a program. You want the expectations to be very, very high, and he did that for this university and for Clemson. Now, a common thing that people like to point out is, well, he won those 2 national championships because he had generational quarterbacks. They look at Deshaun Watson, look at Trevor Lawrence, and yes, those are elite quarterbacks, first-round draft picks, top quarterbacks in the NFL, and players that transcended this program for sure. But Dabo didn't need a generational quarterback to have success. Matter of fact, if you look at the years outside of Deshaun and Trevor, he still had a ton of success. And I want to take it all the way back to 2011. In 2011, Clemson's starting quarterback was Taj Boyd, and he quarterbacked there from 2011 to 2013. He was drafted by the New York Jets, 4th-round draft pick. In 2011, they went 10-4, and they finished the year number 25 after losing the Orange Bowl to West Virginia. In 2012, they went 11-2, finished the season ranked number 9, beating LSU in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. And in 2013, Clemson went 11-2, finished number 8 in the rankings, beating Ohio State in the Orange Bowl. In all 3 of those years, Clemson had double-digit wins, went to 3 major bowl games, and would have made the playoffs in the current formatting twice of those 3 years, after finishing number 9 and number 8 in 2012 and in 2013. Then you look at the year between Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, and that was 2017. In 2017, their starting quarterback was Kelly Bryant. And Kelly Bryant, for those who don't know, was a quarterback that started at Clemson and finished his career at Missouri. Clemson went undefeated in the regular season, winning the ACC, and they ranked the number 1 team in the country, losing to Bama in the semifinals of the college football playoffs. Then you look at the 2022 season. Clemson went 11-2, winning the ACC championship, and were a 1-point loss away from making it to the playoffs for the 7th time in Dabo Swinney's career. So the idea that Dabo needs a generational quarterback is just mind-boggling. Clemson has phenomenal success because Dabo Swinney is a phenomenal coach. He's a great coach to the players, to the program. Now, I want to point out 2 more things. You might say, well, he doesn't adapt. He doesn't adapt. He's prehistoric. He is a coach that won't have more success because he's a dinosaur. He doesn't use a transfer portal. Well, here's a fun fact about the transfer portal. The teams that use the transfer portal, they use it for 2 reasons. Either A, they have a lack of talent and depth, or B, they have a lack of a star at a starting position. And here's the thing. Clemson didn't meet any of those requirements. The past 3 years, the transfer portal has been used since 2021 in its new expanded format where players can transfer to any team and not to sit out for any amount of time. In 2022, 24/7 started keeping track of transfer portal rankings. In 2022, the number 1 team that used the transfer portal was Southern Cal. But here's the catch. Their high school to college recruiting class was number 70th. Clemson was number 10. In 2023, the team that ranked the highest in the transfer portal recruiting class was Colorado, but their high school to college recruiting class was 30th. Clemson was 11th. And then 2024, this season, the number 1 team in the transfer portal was Ole Miss, but their high school to college football recruiting class was 21st, while Clemson's was 11th. So the teams that used the portal the most in those 3 years used it because they had a lack of talent and a lack of depth because they couldn't recruit well out of high school, unlike Clemson. And then the other requirement is a lot of teams that use the portal that aren't ranking number 1 are teams that are seeking a starter at a position because they lost a significant player there. People like to point out Oregon and Texas primarily when comparing to Clemson in the use of the transfer portal because they address the need that many think Clemson needs help at, which is wide receiver. But why did Oregon and Texas use the transfer portal to target wide receivers? It's because they lost talent at the wide receiver position. Oregon's leading receiver in 2023 was Troy Franklin, but he left to go to the NFL being drafted by the Denver Broncos. So naturally, they look for a wide receiver in the portal because they lost their starting player at the wide receiver position, and they brought in Evan Stewart. Then you look at Texas, who got Isaiah Bond, the highest rated transfer recruit in the wide receiver position. But why did Texas target a starting wide receiver? is because their number one and number two receivers got drafted to the NFL this year. Xavier Worthy going first round to the Chiefs and Adonai Mitchell going second round to the Colts. They needed a wide receiver because they lost their starting two from last season. Then you look at Clemson. What's the difference between them, Oregon, and Texas? Clemson is returning their top two wide receivers from last year. Tyler Brown and Tony Williams were the top two wide receivers for Clemson last season, and they are the starters this year. Clemson didn't have a need for the wide receiver position. So teams use it because they need depth, which Clemson already has. They need talent, which Clemson already has, or they need a starter at one of their positions. The need that Clemson, quote unquote, had was wide receiver, but yet they didn't need one because they already had their starters returning last year. So the idea that Dabo isn't adapting the portal is perplexing. He's just not using it because he doesn't need to. Last, and certainly not least, the best way to test someone's value is on the open market. A lot of people are saying that Dabo is a prehistoric coach. He doesn't know how to win anymore. He should be out of college football. He shouldn't be coaching Clemson anymore. But what does the market tell you? It tells you that Dabo is a premier coach. He's a top 5 coach, top 3 coach in college football, and a lot of teams want him. Texas A&M had a huge opening this past season after letting go Jimbo Fisher. Who was the first person they contacted for their new head coach position? It was Dabo Swinney, a top program at A&M who wants to have continued success, reached out to Dabo Swinney to be their head coach. Then you look at the other major head coach position opening in college football this past year, Alabama. Who was in Alabama's short list of coaches they wanted to pursue? Dabo Swinney. The market clearly shows that Dabo has a lot of value in college football because one of the top programs, the best of the best in Alabama, had him on their short list. And then A&M, a program who continues to want to have success, takes big swings for big-time coaches like they did with Jimbo Fisher, reached out to Dabo Swinney first because they really, really wanted him. The market shows you that Dabo is a great head coach. His resume shows you that he's a great head coach. And his quote-unquote inability to use the transfer portal is justified, showing that he's not some prehistoric dinosaur who doesn't know how to adapt to college football. Dabo Swinney is a great head coach and should always be the head coach of the Clemson Tigers. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe.